You know, Conway Stewart always does this little magic trick where when you receive your pen and you unbox it from its magnificent box, you suddenly feel transported back in time. All the pens that I've received from them just have this vintage quality to them. They just seem as if they were plucked from the stream of time and brought to this age. And I think for me, that's the root of my fascination with Conway Stewart pens. Today, we're going to look deeply at the Conway Stewart Series 58 Indiana Jones replica fountain pen. So join me, won't you? Now, Conway Stewart makes a bunch of different Series 58 fountain pens. This particular one is the Indiana Jones replica version, which is an exact copy of the pen that was used in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And this pen has etched into the barrel the Marcus Brody quote, "The pen is mightier than the sword," which, even if you're not an Indiana Jones fan, is just such a fantastic quote and is really applicable in many different ways and is really kind of inspiring when you think about it. The power of the pen, the power to make change by making connections with people. I think it's brilliant even outside of the film. But you might be here today because you are a fan of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and if you are, and if you're looking for that pen, this is it. As you can imagine, I see a lot of pens. I am constantly writing with different pens from different brands, studying up on them, just really experiencing them. And more I find myself drawn to the outliers, to those pens that have different nibs, different filling mechanisms, different feels, different heritages. I want something more than a different color. I don't know. I mean, this is all a journey of discovery for me. So if you feel like you're in the same area and there's nothing new, it's not quite as inspiring as something that's just different and just a bit more of an outlier. So in this instance with Conway Stewart, Alastair Adams and his team have done a wonderful job of establishing the direction of this brand along the same trajectory it was always on. So many of those traditional models, the feel of them have all been extended into our age. Now, another thing you can do with a heritage brand is to reinterpret it, put out different pens. Sometimes you lose the essence of it. For me, if it doesn't have some of the original DNA, the original styling cues, the original feel, fit, finish, it's just not the same company. It has to have something of that original spirit. Conway Stewart does. It's a fantastic thing to get a pen that looks like it was manufactured in the 1950s in 2024. And that's exactly how this Series 58 feels. Now, you know, when I do a pen review, I'm not much for a straightforward review. I find them very tedious. I think that you could easily go to the website to see all the dimensions and the weight and everything else. I think what's important is that I'm able to communicate to you what the experience of using this pen is like, the kind of feelings that it evokes in me, the kind of connections I feel, the kind of inspiration I get from this pen. And some pens leave you flat. Sometimes there's no story there to sort of hang your imagination upon. There's no framework to build on there. But this pen has a long legacy of English craftsmanship that's been resurrected and extended. And for me, that means a lot. And not only because I have a family connection to England, but also because I admire that spirit of English style, craftsmanship, legacy, and heritage. It's always produced amazing things. Let's talk about the size of this magnificent pen. So as I mentioned before, it's rather slight. Here it is with the Lamy 2000, and you can see that the Lamy 2000 is considerably longer. But this pen is very comfortable. It's very easy to write with, either posted or unposted, but it certainly posts magnificently. It has perfect balance. It's very elegant. But it is a pen of vintage dimensions, and I think that's important to emphasize here. In fact, I have a Conway Stewart pen from the 1950s. This is the Conway pen. It's a 475, and if you see it compared to this pen is actually about the same size, if slightly larger. So if you're looking for something with pure vintage dimensions, this is perfect. Now, there may be some downsides to this. If you're someone who likes very large pens, this might not be the pen for you. It's a great pen for slipping into your lapel pocket, for carrying around. It's one of the lightest pens that I own. When you post it, it is normal size and it feels fantastic in your hand. It is effortless to glide this pen along the page. So let's start with one of the sort of biggest criticisms of these pens that I hear in the comments, and that's the nibs. So these used gold Jowo nibs. And to many people, if you're going to be spending above $400 or so, they want an artisanal nib that's fashioned in-house. And I mean, everyone loves that. I love it too. I am finding that typically artisanal in-house gold nibs price points are creeping ever higher in all brands. So there is that challenge. But let's set all that aside for now and talk about this one. So for around $500, you get this Jowo 18 karat gold nib. On its own, that might be unremarkable. However, now you have to also consider that each of these nibs are sent to John Serica, who checks them, who polishes them, who makes sure that they write smoothly and effortlessly. And I will have to say that every Conway Stewart pen that has passed through my hands has been an absolute joy to write with. Just incredibly silky smooth, just a light touch, a wetter experience, but a fantastic line that doesn't have false starts, that doesn't skip, that doesn't let you down when you're ready to write with it. They have been extraordinary. And for me, having John Serica and the way that I obsess over things, I don't know if you know this about me, but pretty much anything that I get, I feel like when I first get it, it's wrong, doesn't fit, it's broken. I always go through this few hours of angst and anxiety when I'm saying, yeah, I don't think this is right, I don't like it, I think it's broken. My wife usually talks me down and says, you're just doing that thing you always do. So for me to know that a professional nibmeister has reviewed my pen and has looked at each part of it and written with it and has signed off on it gives me a lot of confidence that this is a good pen and something that I can use. So is that worth a little extra? I think it is. Another point of contention with this pen is that it's a lever fill. So if you're adamantly against lever fill fountain pens, then this is not the pen for you. However, if you've never tried one, then this might be a great opportunity to try. I love that it has the original fill system, and the lever fill system has been reliable because it's so basic. There's basically a spring that pushes an arm against a sack that compresses it, and then when you put the nib into ink, it expands, creating a vacuum, sucks up some ink, and there you have it. You have a full pen. So it's easy enough to use, and if there is a problem, it's easy enough to fix. I know people who fix their own pens. I know people who send them out and fix them for around $50 US. So to me, that is not a deal breaker, but I have found that if you jostle them around too much, their little stomachs get upset, and sometimes they like to burp up a little bit of ink now and again. So you need to sort of be on the lookout for that. And you also want to take a lot of care and attention to dry it out thoroughly when you fill it. The feed, the fins, the whole area around where the nib and feed go into the section. Just make sure it's nice and clean, because when that capillary action comes in, you don't want it super saturated so that ink is ready to fly in any case. So beside those things, it just is a fantastic, reliable filling system that's very easy to use. Although it does require 2 hands and you want a stable ink bottle, so no top-heavy ink bottles when you're filling it with a lever fill. I like the connection to heritage and to history, and I like things that are a little different. And to my knowledge, Conway Stewart is the only brand that makes lever fills right now, certainly in a production model. So I find that fascinating and interesting. Let's talk about the aesthetics of this pen. So this pen just feels and looks as if it were transported from the 1950s. It has that beautiful classic black and gold look, just stunning. You could see Humphrey Bogart writing with this pen. It has 3 beautiful 9-karat gold bands on the cap. I rather wish it had a ring of gold around the edge of the cap in case you drop it to protect it. It also has a clip of 23-karat gold with the Conway Stewart logo at the top, very beautifully rendered. It also wraps around the top of the pen with some nice bezels, and it just looks fantastic. There's a finial with a point on the top that's rather conical and looks lovely. The back of the pen tapers slightly, allowing it to post like a dream. This is a pen that I do post, but I also don't mind writing with it unposted. It's just long enough to allow for that, but for me, it's more comfortable posted. I also think that the lever itself is really pretty. It's embedded into the pen, sits flush, has a beautiful round catch so that you can pull it up to use it, and it's just very, very lovely touch. Makes it look very, very vintage. Okay, so let's talk about the value proposition with this pen. This pen is $523 US at the time of filming, and what do you get for that? You get a acrylic pen with gold accents with a Yovo gold nib that's been tuned by John Serico. You also get the ability to build your pen with some of your own personal preferences. You can certainly pick your nib size from extra fine, fine, medium, or broad. From there, you can also have it in italic or in oblique. Each pen is manufactured for you once it's ordered. That's what makes it bespoke, which is pretty exciting. Mine is 2 of 500. I love owning this pen. In fact, they sent it to me as a demo and I couldn't send it back. So, I mean, they might just be doing that so I buy their pens. But it is pretty remarkable. I've used it for the past couple weeks and I really enjoy journaling with this pen. It's lightweight, makes it very easy to journal in all sorts of situations. And as you know, I'm out and about and doing all sorts of things. So it's very nice to be able to have a pen, easy to carry, easy to use, feather light, like a quill, and absolutely expressive and smooth and glorious. I think for me, that's one of the highlights of this pen, just how incredibly smooth this pen is. Also, the customer service with Alistair and his team is just like no other company, and they're very pleasant to deal with, and it's just been an absolute joy. So for me, how do we break down this $523? I think for a high quality acrylic and gold pen, I think that pushes you in the $200 range. You have to throw in a gold nib. And then you have John Siricow, who is tuning the nib for you. And you have the fact that you've ordered this pen specifically for yourself and that it was made for you. And that it's a limited edition. I think that's a fair value. I mean, I wish every pen were less expensive, but I would put this pen in the aspirational category. If you're someone who loves vintage pens, loves the vintage lifestyle, just loves everything analog, and you want something manufactured as it was years ago that has that feel, the dimensions, and everything else. I mean, it's like buying a 57 Chevy in 2024. That's pretty remarkable. So I think if you're looking for that, this is a perfect pen for you, and you can set your own value on that. So, what do you think of the Conway Stewart Series 58 Indiana Jones replica? The pen is mightier than the sword. Is it a pen that you'd like to add to your collection? And if you enjoyed this review, please let me know. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to support the channel even more, consider becoming a member. I'd appreciate the support, and you help to keep the lights on, so thank you very much. So I make new videos all the time, and I have a live show each Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. So I can promise you one thing, we will see each other again very, very soon, further up the road. So take care of yourself.